Hey, what's going on? It's Jason Lucchesi with the No Flipping Excuses show. I am so excited that you're here with us today. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I just want to remind you, if you are not a subscriber, make sure you become a subscriber. Click that little button right below if you're on YouTube. Now, if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast player, thank you so much. Make sure you give this video a 5-star review. Would really, really love that from you. And as always, we're going to continue the conversation below in the comments section. So after this video concludes, that doesn't mean the video's done, but that doesn't mean our conversation has to discontinue. Make sure you drop a comment below. Would love to hear from you. Would love to hear any questions that you have when we dive into today's episode with our amazing guest that I'm going to introduce you to in just a moment. And make sure you share this on Facebook, Twitter, which is now X, LinkedIn, and wherever else you like to go, Instagram, all that good stuff. Would love to see it. Tag us in it. We'll comment on it. Make sure that we are all in this together, my friend. So without further ado, I've got a really good friend of mine that I'm going to be introing you here in just a moment. But I want to let you know, this is a guy, I was thinking about this today. Patrick Precourt is somebody I've known for a while, and I've kind of been putting this out to the world like, hey, at some point I'm going to be working with this guy on maybe having him come on for a podcast or not. Because when I was just getting started in real estate back in 2008, and then I shifted into doing short sales in 2009, Patrick had a course on short sales, and I purchased that. I think, and you could correct me if I'm wrong here, but it was you and somebody, I think it was pat's. So I bought that course. That was in 2009. And we've been trying to get on each other's schedules now for a while. Pat's a busy guy. So he's been doing real estate forever. And one of the cool things is I've been friends with him on Facebook for a while now. And he teaches a lot of different stuff on why people get stuck on where they're at right now in their business. Either if you're new, a novice, or maybe a seasoned pro. There's a lot of different things that happen within our journey to where we just hit a roadblock. We come up to a brick wall, and a lot of times we're like, oh, I don't know what to do here. And I love following Pat's journey and all the things that he has to share on Facebook. And I really felt like, hey, let's get you on the show. We had a conversation, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and we put this together. I sent him the link. I'm like, hey, let's get you on the calendar here. Let's get this going. And now he's here. So it only took me, what, Pat, 15 years to get this going. But hey, it happened. We got this going. So without further ado, Mr. Patrick Precourt is with us. So how you doing, man?
I am doing fantastic, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. And yeah, we've known each other for a while now. Back then, because we started in short sales, Bob and I, in the late like 99, 2000, and Bob joined me like 2004, I think. And it was kind of the wild, wild west when it came to doing short sales and debt negotiation. I'm talking about our first short sales were done with customer service. There were no such thing as loss mitigation department and loss mitigation package. None of that stuff even existed. So crazy times, And Jason, you're like, I love it. Your podcast is an amazing podcast and deserving of a 5-star review all day long. And I'm in my mind, I'm saying maybe you guys should hold off on this one. I'm going to challenge some of you and to make some of you a little uncomfortable. But I'll challenge you first just to stay to the end and then give that 5-star review. This one's going to be worth paying attention to.
Yeah, absolutely. When you and I were talking a couple of weeks ago, you have this retreat thing coming up, which I'm, still very interested in. As somebody that's always constantly looking to, not so much, I guess, grow, I would say grow, but just constantly looking to challenge myself, because nobody's perfect. We're all imperfect beings. But I think there's a way to where we could always be making improvements. And before people are like, oh, well, you've been doing this for X amount of time. I didn't start off that way. And my big thing is, as long as you make a 1% improvement every single day, you're making a 1% improvement. Most people, they strive to do a 50% improvement. And most of the time, and Pat, you could probably touch on this, but they don't even get the 1%. Because they're trying to get the 50%, which is you're literally at the bottom of the stairs and you're literally trying to take that big step all the way up to the top of the ladder. And it's like, you don't know how to get there. So it's like a lot of people fall short of that by quite a bit. They don't even make it past 0% because they're trying to do all these crazy goals, which I love it. I love crazy goals. You have to have really big goals out there because you can get them done. But Pat, from doing this for as long as we have, you used to do a lot of real estate education. You had the training programs, which I went through. They were detailed. They were A to Z. They helped me out with my short sale business when I was getting going at, 08, 09-ish. So phenomenal trainings. And now you're doing stuff to kind of help people almost get like unstuck. From talking to you, I feel like that's kind of what it is, because a lot of us, men and women, we get in our own heads and we don't want to do the uncomfortable thing. So let's hop into this and kind of talk about what you are doing today and how you are making such an impact on people's lives.
And you just said a whole lot there. So Jason, if it's cool, let me just take 2 seconds and share with people. I have a huge real estate background, but my focus for the last 13 years has been in peak performance and human behavioral change. Okay. So in the personal development space, I call it evidence-based personal development. So everything I do is tangible, measurable. And you're right. We were in the real estate education space for a long, long time. And I wouldn't say we had outstanding, education. Is it the best? I don't know. I don't have no way to compare that to others, but it was fantastic enough for people to be successful. We had a lot of successful people, but most weren't. I started a gym in 2012 called the 𝐾𝐞𝐚𝐥, and ran that for 13 years. We just sold it a little while ago. I took what I learned about human behavior in the education space and rolled it over into the gym space. And I focused my time in there, Jason. I'm not a personal trainer or, power lifter or anything like that. I'm a health guy, but I don't know enough to teach you that. However, I can show people how to get results with the information they have. And that's became my narrow lane. You guys know what to do. You know how to do it. You know the results are good for you. Why aren't we doing the consistent, necessary behavior to get to the other side of the river? And that's my expertise that I play in. And you brought up big goals versus little goals. And I'll put a little context to this, right? We're taught from very young, right, that it's all about arriving, meaning that, well, we can't be happy till we graduate 6th grade. Then we can't be happy till we get into high school. Then we can't be happy till we get out of high school. Then till we get a car or a girlfriend or a boyfriend, then a house and a dog and a baby. Then baby gets out of diapers and the baby grows a little further and can throw a ball. And it never stops. And as a result of that, we're in a constant perpetual state of rushing the clock into the future in order for us to find some level of happiness, peace, success, purpose, meaning. And it's a loser's game. We can't win in that game. And I share people this idea. It's not about arriving. That's a falsehood. It's about the journey. We've heard this 1,000 times. We just don't pay attention to it. It's not about it's not about the goal. It's about the journey to achieve the goal. And that's where life is experienced. Now you talk about change and day over day, 1% improvement, right? I couldn't agree with you more. I would say if you were to look for the soul anchors in happiness, they come from 2 places. 1, day over day progress. We have to see that we're progressing in life. And 2, we have to see how we contribute to something bigger than ourselves. We weren't put on this earth. We weren't given these God-given innate skills and talents that are so damn unique to each and every one of us, just for us, or even just for our family. That's part of our why. But that's like what I call our priority. Look after our spouse or our kids or our best friends or whatever, right? That's important. But we have a greater responsibility, and that's the impact that we make while we're here on earth, right? So now we have this situation where if you want to be happy, it ain't about arriving at that next thing. And I can give you example after example after example, particularly with men, because I deal a lot with men that have made it. They've arrived from the outside in. They're looking awesome, right? They had every box is checked off, from the houses to the cars, et cetera, but they're miserable, they're empty, they're hollow because they sacrificed everything that they thought they sacrificed everything that was important to them in exchange for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. They're disciplined, committed, focused, hardworking, great work ethic. They checked all the boxes, right? But they may have burnt through 2 or 3 wives and families and friends. And now they get to the end and they have possessions and they have achievement, but they're lacking fulfillment and purpose. Yep. My goal is to marry those together at the beginning of the journey for everyone, because you can have it all. You can genuinely have it all, brother.
I agree with you quite a bit. there, in the beginning, when I was first getting started in real estate, I had the vision board and I had a lot of material things on there. Like, hey, I want the Rolex. I want the nice car. I want the big house with the pool. And I want to fly on private planes and all this type of stuff. And it's crazy from that movie, that documentary, The Secret. It's crazy how much a lot of that just starts coming in as you start putting in the hard work and you're constantly seeing that board every day. A lot of those things keep coming in. And the crazy thing is, Pat, with what you just said, like I started getting those things and I just was chasing that next thing to try and just have that, oh, I'm going to feel much more happier when I have this or when I have that. And it's just, you're constantly chasing. And I don't think that's healthy in any way whatsoever. Like nowadays, like I just go on walks and I look around and I'm just like, right now, because it's summertime, I see greenery. I see the grass. I see the leaves. The leaves are blowing around. I see the trees. I see people around just having a good time. And like that to me, like fuels me so much more than just getting like the nice Rolex or, the Corvette or the big house or stuff like that. It's crazy how when you get older, you just start looking at things a little bit differently. And I think a book that I read a few years ago called The Untethered Soul helped out quite a bit with that. But it's crazy how a lot of people, and you know this because you used to have an education style business for real estate investors. So you know this, a lot of them get into the business because of how we market, right? Because we're like, hey, if you do this X, if you flip this contract, you're going to make $10, $15, $20,000. And a lot of people associate, oh, if I make $10, $15, $20,000, I'm going to be able to do this, this, and this. And it's all material things most of the time. So nowadays I'm all about experiences. And from talking to you, it sounds kind of like, we're around the same, but let's kind of hop in here. Let me ask you this question. Let's just say like somebody that's getting involved in real estate. They're coming in from a complete newbie level, or maybe they have been doing this for a little bit. They've bought some trainings. Maybe they've flipped some deals, some contracts. What is it for a lot of them to where they just fail to get going, or they've got going, they've closed some deals, but they can't get that momentum going? I think I kind of have a good idea what that is, but I would love to hear this from you on people. They hit the gas as soon as they get like maybe some training program, they get access to it, and then they just don't go. Like they don't keep their foot on the gas pedal to where they could see the results. They want like, I think I might have an idea behind it, but I would love to hear your answer on that.
Yeah, certainly. So fundamentally, like whenever we start something new, it's because it's new and exciting and fun and so forth, right? And there's a definitely tangible sense of energy that's evolving around that. And we'll call it motivation, right? But motivation is short-lived and it wears off. And again, if you ask for the simplest way I can describe this, the reason we stop is because we get to the first hard thing. It might be making those outbound calls. It might be door knocking. It might be cutting the check for the first big mailing, whatever it might be. We get to the first hard thing. And remember to come back to pain because it's an important part of today's discussion. We get to the first hard thing, have that drive from the motivation that wore off a couple of weeks ago since the seminar, where our tanks are empty. We can't get through the first hurdle. Okay. And you brought up the word momentum, which is very important here. The game changer, and we got to get to this before we even, begin the program or begin the new thing, is we have to attach meaning to the outcome. When there is a genuine meaning to the thing that we're trying to accomplish, that's what gives us that fire, that fight, that passion. That's what taps into our emotion. It's in that emotion that we get the energy that there's now void because the motivation isn't there. Everybody thinks that we got to seek out motivation, be motivated all day long. And I'd say, no. As a matter of fact, I would challenge you to wean off that, that motivation junkie status and rely on something that you're in control of, right?
Yeah.
And once when something means enough, we'll do it. It'll overpower that hurdle, that challenge, or whatever it is standing in front of us. So that's the shortest answer to the question. And there's a series of very short questions I walk people through, Jason, and it just goes like this. Number one, really clear, like, what do you want, right? Um, and it's important that we get clear on it. Do not put a financial goal in there, because money doesn't mean anything. It comes void of meaning until we attach a meaning to it. And you say, well, no, Pat, I really do want 100 grand. So I'd ask you, well, what is the result of that result? Why do you want it? How will it change your life? How will it affect your day to day? Let's go a little deeper. What do you really want? Right?
Yeah.
Because no one really wants to start a whole new business. No one wants to, but we want the result of what that business could do for us. And that's the part we got to get to. Because if all we do is focus on the business and all the hard shit that goes along with the business, then when the going gets tough and we don't have the drive to push through it, well, we stop. And we never say, I quit. We just make a decision to procrastinate, and then it's pass on it. And then tomorrow it's easier to pass on it again. And then we just never get back to it. And for long, we're dead in the water, stuck, like you said early on, right? So we ask ourselves, what do we want? Next question, really important. We add this to when do we want it? Because we're bred into the concept, the human construct of time. So we have to utilize that as a tool, right? Whenever we're up against deadlines, we perform at a higher level. We have no deadlines, we'll spread it out. No different than like extra storage in a house. The more storage you have, the more shit you'll collect. It's just how
that's true, man. It's
right?
so true.
Everyone's like, I need a bigger closet. No, you don't. You need less stuff. If I gave you a bigger closet a year from now, it would be filled with more stuff. Time's the same way, Jason. If we give ourselves a huge long runway, we ain't taking off to the end of the runway, no matter what. Condense that stuff, challenge ourselves. What do I want? When do I want it? Next one's a big one. What am I willing to sacrifice to get it? And that's huge, because everything comes with sacrifices. Every decision you make comes with a sacrifice in form of a consequence. Every single one, right? The challenge is we never ask ourselves that up front. So when it comes time to make those sacrifices, oftentimes we're not willing to, and we don't do the hard work because we didn't want to give up, movie hour on Friday night type thing, right? Which if we had agreed to that in advance, in a sane mind, not in an emotionally charged mind, we would have already made the decision and it would not have come up on that night. Follow me on that? So what do I want? When do I want it by? What am I willing to sacrifice? And the last one, I say each one is big. This is as big as the other one. And it's really important we ask ourselves this. Who do I need to become? If you were that person already to deserve the thing you want, you'd have it. You're not. And I'm not saying that in a judgmental way. It's more of a, let's just be honest and truthful with ourselves. So this is the essence of be, do, have, right? In order to have something we don't currently have, we've got to do something that we're not currently doing. That's just logical. But that means we got to first become someone that we're not. And once we start answering that question, it changes everything. Because what it's going to come down to, I got to be more committed and more disciplined and more focused and more honest. And honest is with me. And I'm not talking about you're honest with everybody else. I'm talking about honest with yourself. When you say you're going to do something for you, do you do it, or do you let yourself off the hook because you didn't tell anybody else about it? That's being dishonest, right?
Right.
And really leveling yourself up. And there's other levels of accountability, of course, we can add to it. But that's kind of the baseline as to why we don't do what we want to do. We know how to do, and we say we're going to do, and it's also good for us. And boom, we end up stuck.
My thing, and we just had our real estate freedom challenge here a couple of weeks ago. And one of the things that we talk about on day one is really going after, like, if you really want this to be something that's successful for you, and whatever success is, it's a definition that's different, in my opinion, for everybody. It differs from person to person on what their definition of success is. So we just talk about why you have to get crystal clear on your whys. Because for me, like when I was first getting started, and even with when I started my weight loss journey in July of 2020, like I got crystal clear on my whys, on why I wanted to get into the shape that I wanted to get into. And I'm still about, right now I'm doing a caloric deficit right now. And I think I'm going to go until about November 1st. And I've got a goal attached to that and a reason behind why that's important to me. I think what we share on day one is so important because it sets the stage. It sets the foundation for, if you're not willing to do the hard things, then you don't have compelling enough whys to push you every single day to get that done. Like you brought up the whole TV thing. I think for a few months, like 4 or 5 months, some nights I didn't even watch TV. Like I didn't miss it. I didn't care about it. I'm just like, okay, no TV. Because I would think about it the next day. I'm like, oh, what did I do last night? I'm like, oh, I didn't watch TV. So for a few months, like I'm just telling people right now, if you're spending a lot of time watching TV, like if you cut that out, oh my gosh, you're definitely going to start seeing the results that you want within your business, but that has to be something that you want to do. So Pat, what is it that people need to start doing? Do you think like coming up with important enough whys, like kind of helps fuel the fire per se to get them to be able to do this every day? Or what is it in your opinion that folks that are listening to this like need to do? Maybe some people want to get rid of their 9-to-5 jobs so that they can start traveling more with their family. Maybe they do want to do real estate investing. Like maybe just a random business owner is watching this show right now. Like it doesn't have to be real estate specific, but just like being able to, get out of the gates and just keep going. And I'm not saying, folks, you have to keep going all the time, because that would be exhausting, right? We'd drive ourselves into an early grave if we just kept feeling like we had to run around the track just to see results. But I'm curious on what you would think, like just for the somebody that's watching this show right now, Pat, like what do you think about that?
I'm going to put this in step-by-step form. So if, for those who are listening, if you're ready to move from where you are, or if you're in a rut, or you just have a bigger goal you're trying to accomplish, just write these steps down and they'll give you a path to follow, right? And I'll share something with you guys first. Oftentimes, when we set out to do something new, the problem isn't the new thing we're about to do. It works perfectly well. The problem is right here, because we've started out so many times in the past to do a new thing, and we didn't follow through on it, and then we quit it. So we no longer even believe, Jason, that we're going to do what we say we're going to do, even though we're in a motivated state. And it is impossible. This is important. It is impossible to outperform our beliefs. That's why you hear the word limiting beliefs come up all the time. Okay. They throttle us big time. We all have them. It's not a question of if. It's we absolutely all have limiting beliefs that were put into us, programmed into us a long time ago. And we tend to, over time, we stay at it, we tend to work our way through them and establish new beliefs on top of them by creating new evidence and the results. But I would just caution everyone to be aware of that, because if you're aware of it, you can step on top of it. You can bully over top of it. Okay. So everybody assume that fundamentally you have a belief that you won't follow through on your commitment. Let's accept that that's there. The process isn't much different, but being aware of it will trample that thing down. So number one, again, pick the goal. Even if the reason for the goal, remember the result, the meaning is the part that matters. Even if the reason is just to execute something I said I'm going to do, that's awesome. That's a driver. Okay. Yeah. But don't just pick the goal. Get to the result of the achievement of the goal. That's where your fire is. That's where your fight is. Okay. Number two, create a strategy. Now, I'm going to talk just a second on strategy, because the word gets thrown around all the time. Strategy is really simple. It's taking your resources and your resourcefulness and putting them in a line between where you are and where you want to go. That's a strategy. Don't create some pie in the sky plan that you cannot possibly execute. Does that make sense, Jason?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And an important part here too is being very truthful, very honest with where you are today. And I'll just give you an analogy. I'm in Connecticut. Say I want to go to California, Jason, right? Or say you're visiting me in Connecticut and you want to go to California. You say, Pat, I heard you made that trip. Can you give me the perfect blueprint to go from Cromwell, Connecticut to San Diego, California? I say, I absolutely can, Jason, no problem. Right. And I give you the exact, every street, every turn, the mileage, the gas stations, the hotels, the car, it's a perfect plan. All you got to do is start it and go. Right. And then I send that plan over to you, and you get back to me. He's like, Pat, this plan doesn't work. This plan sucks. I don't even get it. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I can't even find this first street. I'm like, well, where are you? He goes, well, I'm down in Florida.
Yeah.
Boom. And the point of that analogy is a plan, Jason, that worked for you probably won't be the same plan that'll work for me, because we're different people in different places doing different things. And everybody's got to appreciate that. Okay. And that's why coming up with your own strategy and connecting the dots between precisely where you are and precisely where you want to go, utilizing your current resources and your resourcefulness. Those are the backbone to your strategy. Don't put anything in there that does not fall in one of those buckets, because you won't be able to execute on it. So that's our strategy. Number two, act on it, meaning move, take action. Nothing happens without you moving, right? And oftentimes when we're coming up with the strategy thing, there will be missing pieces that we feel we need to know in advance. And I will tell you that you don't. You'll never have all of the answers until you actually start the journey. The journey will give you much of the feedback, the information, the bits and pieces that we're missing at the beginning. And much of that is only available through the journey. There's no other way to get it. And I call it the discovery process. And I don't know about you, Jason, but I've gotten caught up before not starting because I wanted more information, more knowledge, more stuff in order. And I kept coming up with more shit I needed, which really becomes just a procrastination tool, right? And never left the gate. So I'm going to share with you guys, it matters less about how much information you have when you start and more that you start. So I'd say give yourself a couple days, a window, picture a frame of time that you're going to put together your strategy. And no matter what, no matter where you're at in it, you go to step one. You get the hell out of Dodge. Okay. That's number three. Number four is we got to measure. Number five is we got to adjust. So everything we do, we got to measure the feedback, and that's how we learn and grow. And if for some reason something's not working well, we adjust. That's all. That's part of the process. Don't think you're going to put a perfect plan together right out of the gate. It's not going to happen. Okay. And then the final play is just simply repeat steps 2 through 6. That's all we do, is recycle this back through again and again and again and again. The key, do not stop. That is your biggest threat. That's your biggest challenge. That's the biggest likeliness you'll get pulled back into the same.
Yep. I fully agree with that. I like that you broke that down step by step. Makes a lot of sense. And I'm glad that you shared that. Hey, book your free strategy session call today by going to 2daycall.com. That's the number 2daycall.com. We'd love to talk to you about how we're tapping into 34 plus lead generation off market strategies in your market. Most of them too are free. Let's talk about it. Let's see how we can help you and your business thrive right now. Head on over to 2daycall.com. Talk to you later. A lot of what people go through today too, I think that relates with a lot of people's stories that they have, because we all have stories, right? I think that's really paramount with what you just shared. And I'm thankful that you did that, because it kind of lays things out for people to kind of get going. And I really like that. So I know we're coming to the part in the show to where we're going to be wrapping it up here in just a moment. We've got a few more things, so don't worry. We've got some more things that we're going to be sharing here with Pat. But so far, if you guys are enjoying this show, make sure you smash that like button. Give us a big thumbs up here on YouTube. Drop a comment below. Let us know what you've kind of enjoyed so far about this episode with Mr. Patrick Precourt. And if you're over listening to this on your favorite podcast player, make sure that you give us a 5-star review. Would love to have your feedback as well over there, depending on where you are, maybe iTunes, or maybe it's some other podcast player that our team has put this on. Getting back to the show here is for people that kind of want to get unstuck. What you kind of laid everything out here. I was just going to ask you, what are some other, tricks of the trade or tools that you would like to share?
Okay. So this gets into my human behavior, psychology background, right? Humans are not driven by the gain of pleasure. They're driven by the avoidance of pain. Okay. And that becomes one of the short sides in kind of like a vision board, which they're cute and adorable, right? But they're not a big enough driver to get us to do the hard things. The gain of pleasure is used once we have momentum to keep us moving. Okay. That's how we keep that carrot out in front of the horse, keep it moving. But that won't get us moving. So we have to appreciate the natural scale of pain and pleasure, and more specifically, the pain of being the same or doing the same versus the pain of change. Now, we're inherently adverse to change for a million reasons, predominantly because A, we don't like uncertainty, and B, there's a fear of the unknown. So all fears are anchored in the unknown. Every fear everybody ever had is fundamentally founded in the fact we just don't know. And then most people, when we talk about change and then the future, always go to the what if this bad thing happens. Nobody ever goes, what if this great thing happens, right? We're like, but what if I fail? What if I lose? What if I get judged? What if all this stuff happens, right? So now the perception, and perception is a key word, the perceived pain of change. So we're making it more difficult to change because of our mind. We're making that scale heavier. And then back here, the pain that we're experiencing in our current life, whether it be, we hate the fact that we're so out of shape, we hate the fact that our bank account is so poor, we can't pay the bills and all of these kind of things, or maybe it's a relationship thing. We're not being the man in the house like we should be, whatever it may be. That discomfort, right? Instead of leaning into it, Jason, we step back and we distract from it. We anesthetize it. We glaze over it, right? Which actually lightens the scale of pain of staying the same. So we're trapping ourselves even deeper. We drink over it, we smoke over it, we watch TV over it. That's just, watching TV comes in one of two forms. True entertainment could be education, I suppose, or distraction. And for most of us, it's a distraction, right? Yeah. But here we are. We're making the pain of staying the same lighter and the perceived pain of change heavier. So we're digging our rut deeper.
Yep.
Follow me?
Yeah.
We've got to be aware of this. And the antidote's really simple. When pain shows up in our lives, pain is the greatest voice of the universe. It's the highest level of intelligence, and it's about to tell us, and this could be physical pain, emotional pain, mental pain. It's about to tell us exactly what to stop doing and then what to do next. And that's right at that moment that we crack the next beer and drink our way out of it, because we're taught pain is bad, right? So, ooh, bad pain, right? So we run and we anesthetize and we hide and we distract, right?
Yep.
So instead of running from it, stop, pause, drop everything you're doing and freaking pay attention. Get uber present. What is the message I got to hear right now? Because it's as authentic and genuine and as precise for you as it can possibly be. And then on the other side of the scale, stop making a future reality that you don't want to see. Don't play the what if. Well, what if this doesn't work out? What if I fail? What if the economy goes to shit? Stop. You don't know the future. The future is a made up place, which means it's make believe. And you're now allowing a make believe world dictate what you do in your only space of real time, which is the present. Does that make sense?
Totally.
We're creating a self-treason against our own goals and outcomes. So if everybody could just embrace this pain and pleasure scale, there's ways then to use it for you. So in our gym for a while, on a weight loss side, like we were doing this thing with women where if they really, really, really were committed, say like 6 months from now, they got to fit in like a 0 size dress and they're size 12, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's funny. They do a lot all the time, right? Because they're going to a wedding and, but they really, really, really want it. And they got to lose X amount of pounds. I'll turn up the heat on them, right? And it'll go like this. I'm going to take a picture of you in a bikini right now. And I'm just going to hold that picture, right? And the second you don't show up one time for your personal trainer, this is going to go out to everybody in the gym on our Facebook page. That pain right there.
That's big.
Gets
that's
them
big pain
to move.
Yeah.
And I'm just giving you like a very vivid example, but there's a bunch of ways. Like if you wanted to do something, you say, Pat, man, I want to cut down 8% body fat, never been 8% before. I got you, brother. Now remember, I'm not a personal trainer and I'm not a nutritionist or anything like that. But what I want you to do, Jason, I need you to cut me 5 checks, each for 20 grand. Send them to me. They're just going to sit idle until you don't do what you're told to do. Then I'm going to cash one.
You're going to definitely do it. I would. Yeah. I don't want you cashing those checks.
Yeah. Your behavior will change. And this is how we bully over past habits, past behavioral issues, whatever our psychology, right? This is how we just bully over the top of it. And what we're really doing is we're creating new evidence to support a new belief that, man, I can actually do anything I say I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I just got to put the constructs in place. And I'm just giving you kind of random examples. But I'll tell you right now, brother, outside of a mental disorder, there's virtually no result I can't get for someone by using just a couple of these little tools, because human behavior is really that predictable.
Yeah, I love that. Like I love, because I'm a visual guy myself. So that, like, you telling me that stuff, I'm picturing it in my head, like seeing a woman like up against the wall and you're taking a picture of her in the bikini and she's just like, this is really uncomfortable for me. But then you saying, what you just said. And then, yeah, like putting it all together, I see it from a visual standpoint. I could see how that pain would get somebody to be motivated to just keep going every day, make that 1% improvement, because it adds up. How many days do we have in a year? You do that, that's 365% that you're doing, compared to a lot of people. They're not seeing those results. Now it's obviously compounded because you're making 1% improvements every day. So it's compounding every single day that you're making those 1% improvements. But I love that. I love that, Pat. So 2 things to kind of wrap up the show here. Do you have maybe 1 or 2 books that you would recommend to people, and how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah. So there's one, and this is more in the mental emotional space, but it applies so much to entrepreneurs, and it's such an underread book. It's called The Warrior of Light. An amazing book, right? What I like about it is it's written in parables that are about 1.5 pages each. So you can pick it up at any time, open to any part of the book, and read something that will it will have an effect on you throughout the entire day.
Nice.
And then the other thing I would recommend, and we didn't even bring this up really, the emotional fitness, which is emotional intelligence, EQ, is any of the books in emotional intelligence. It will continue to be the single biggest driver in human behavior and human performance. It is one of the greatest common denominators of the most successful CEOs and CFOs of large corporations, right? We're taught that it's IQ, intellectual intelligence, when in fact it's EQ, emotional intelligence. And what that does is that gives us control over our emotions, so that our emotions are not determining the way we think, decide, act, and our results, which is how a lot of people let it play out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And I would even apply that to this little pain pleasure thing we're talking about. The way you can break that tool in a bad way is to let your emotions overpower the logic of the pain. Meaning, you're about to do something bad because you want the pleasure. So you're so emotionally bought into the pleasure, you override your critical thinking on the pain that you're going to pay for it. That could be a night out drinking, man. And you're going to pay for it dearly tomorrow. Be like, but you're letting your emotions affect your decision making, action taking, and results. So anything in the emotional intelligence space would be beautiful read.
Love it.
Love it. And how can people find out more about you, Pat? How can they start, connecting with you a little bit?
So on any of the social media platforms, just Patrick Precourt. I'm probably most active on Facebook. Me and social media have an inverse relationship in that I just hated social media, and I don't like posting on it, but I do. I interact with people as much as I can. I put a lot of good content out there, Jason.
You do.
Just a lot of thought-provoking stuff, just to keep our minds working, and always shooting for that. You said it, 1% improvement, man. If every day you saw progress over the day before, you would wake up inspired and never need motivation again. We are driven to grow.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Pat puts out some amazing information. I follow him on Facebook, but if you could find him on wherever, definitely do that. We'll have like his name spelled out below so that you guys can check it out. We'll also have it in the notes section so that you could click on either it be Facebook, Instagram, wherever it is that you guys could connect with him. Patrick, thank you so much for joining us on today's show. Super appreciate it. Any parting words from you?
I just love helping other people elevate. We're so capable, Jason. As listeners, you wanted to focus on one thing. Never lose sight of the word possible. When we know something is possible, we don't need guarantees. We just know that it is possible. Once we've reached that threshold, anything can happen. And oftentimes we'll talk ourselves out of the possibility. You go back to when you learned when to learn to ride a bike, Jason. You were wholly unqualified to ride a bike. You knew nothing about physics or gravity or momentum, speed, pedaling, none of that crap.
Right.
But you knew it was possible that you could do it. And that's what
Yep.
got you through that threshold and got you I'm going to get it no matter what. So just, man, keep your dreams possible, and it leaves the door wide open to achievement.
I love that. I love that. Love that. Love that. Thank you so much, Patrick, for sharing that. Make sure you guys go follow him, Patrick Precourt, Facebook, Instagram, all the good stuff. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure you give us a big thumbs up. Click the red button below to become a subscriber if you're not already, and drop a comment below. What did you enjoy most about today's episode? Is there any favorite books that you have that you would love to share with other people that are part of our community? If you're over on your favorite podcast player, make sure that you give this a 5-star review, and anything written that you could do about the show as well. We would love to hear that feedback from you. But thank you so much. Make sure you share this on the socials, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X now. And we'll just kind of go from there. So thank you so much. We'll have more shows coming out here on the No Flipping Excuses show for good old YouTube and iTunes and your favorite podcast player. But other than that, I'm Jason Lucchesi. Have a blessed day, and we'll talk soon. Take care. Bye now. Hey, go grab a copy of our brand new book. We'd love to put this in your hands. The Art of Flipping Deals. You could go grab your copy today at theflippingbook.com. Make sure you head on over to theflippingbook.com. We'd love to get this in your hands today and show you exactly how you could get free exclusive inbound leads in your business today. Make sure you head on over to theflippingbook.com. Take care. Bye.